We just want to welcome everyone to our PowerPoint presentation to follow up the shadow marking. We're going to be doing a little bit about Teshuva and Tekufa lessons. And first of all, we're going to start off with what happened in March of 2023. We can get this working here. In March of 2023, and then we're going to look at March of 2024 and what to expect for March of 2025. So this is a little bit of a different presentation, but it might help us to understand what's been happening in the heavens. Something huge happened between March 2023 and March 2024. In March of 2023, we were met with a surprise when marking the Teshuva shadow sign that we had not recognized before. Now, when I say we, talking about shadow markers around the world that were sharing their data with us, not just Tim, myself, and Kim. But anyway, we need to review what happened in both of those years before we approach the March 2025 Teshuva. It would be nice to find out what happened. Some of you were not with us, and you might like to know some of this information because it was kind of interesting. But before we do that, let's first take a look at the time and date world map for the Teshuva in March the 20th. This is NASA, okay? And this is what the world map looks like when you go and look at their website. They say that the Teshuva is March the 20th at 9 o'clock UTC. This bar, this pink bar that you see on all of the slides, is the UTC marker that runs through Greenwich, England, okay? And they never are recording daylight time. It's always standard time. So at 9 o'clock in the morning on March the 20th is what NASA says the equinox moment right here. Okay, so if you look at the world map, you'll see a night season with some twilights, and you'll see night season over here. You'll see where high noon is. This is the sun at high noon, and they will show you the position of the moon, not necessarily the phase. But you will see those kinds of things on this map. I want you to note, I have put in this midnight marker. In the middle of the night, you know that Rome says at midnight is where the date and the day change. So on the right side of this marker, it's already March the 20th, all the way over, okay, to the international date line past New Zealand. But midnight here, and we have Hawaii right here. It's very, very close to the Hawaiian Islands, or any area right here in this section. We're going to be talking about this section a lot. On this side, it is March the 19th. So these are some things that you can look at on this map to see what's going on. In these twilight times right here that are covering over South America, this is the Boker. This is where the sun is rising. So as this night season continues to go west, these are Boker twilights. So you'll see that Brazil here has full sunlight, and there is some Boker twilights here. You can see where the night season is. And then over on the other side, we also have a twilight, but this is the dusk or the Arev twilight. So as this night season is moving to the west, Australia will be coming into the night. So these are Arev, dusk twilights. So you know how to read those parts of the map? But we have a question. Is Tekufa's next question something about a special key of knowledge? We've been asking this question for a couple of years. We're trying to figure out if we can break the code, and I think we can, but maybe it's not quite time. So here we go. Is it possible for us to discern the date for the sighting of the straight line shadow for different countries in the world by looking at this world map for the equinox of March 2025. Do you think it's possible for me to discern what's happening on this map and to answer by email to the Philippines Yes, I know what day is the first day of your year, and I know all your feast dates because I'm not over there to mark their shadow. So that is the question. And the reason I'm saying we need to look at this question is because there are some covenant calendar members in other countries who feel that us as covenant calendar leaders should know this information, that we should know when their Passover is going to be. That's why we're asking this question. I'm wondering if we can discern something from this world map. Again, like I said, midnight marker is here, and you'll see on this time and date that they're telling you right here at the bottom that this is Thursday, March the 20th, 2025. They're saying at 9 o'clock UTC right here is the equinox moment, although it takes more than just a moment for the equinox to happen. So this homework, what would that homework include to unlock this key of knowledge if we are supposed to have this understanding? I just have some questions about that. Would this homework include this world map of the equinox day, including the time and date of the UTC equinox, which is given to us by NASA? Would this homework include the position of the midnight marker? Should we be looking at that? Would this homework include the placements of the dawn, Boker, and the dusk, Areb? Should we be looking at that? Would this homework include where the day season and the night season are? The night season's here, tells us where the sun is. He's hiding under this little yellow face right now. But should we be looking at the placement of the day and the night seasons? Would that give us any clues? And then we're going to talk about the location of Yahuwah's international dateline from the previous year. We're going to show you that here in just a bit. Would that be part of the homework to unlock this key? And another question is, how would you complete such an assignment if you were the covenant calendar instructor? What would you do? So just a little short slide on what is the Tekufa. We already saw a nice description from Jess. This is the sun's circuit through the Mazzaroth, through the 12 constellations in 1 year. Sun has to make that complete circuit. It's 360 degrees, but right now we have 365 or 366 days in that complete circuit. We like this verse in Psalms 19:6. It's, or the sun's rising is from one end of heaven and its circuit to the other end. That's the Tekufa, that circuit right there. Well, one more question. What is a Teshuva? And the answer, it is simply a turning. Twice in every yearly Tekufa circuit, guess what the sun does? It turns. It turns at the fall equinox and at the spring equinox, and then it turns again. Each Teshuva, spring and fall, there's a turning. The spring Teshuva is where when we sight the straight line shadow, that is telling us that that is the last day of the Tekufa circuit. The sun has finished its 360-degree circuit, and the next day at dawn, it's ready to start the circuit all over again. Teshuvah and Tekufa. There are some facts about weekly Shabbat worship days or cycles and calendar dates that we should just think about. I just want to go through this because some people don't quite understand the concepts. But when covenant calendar team leaders from North America join the Philippines on a Friday at 6 o'clock in the afternoon, our time, and I'm just using the date of March 31st as an example, and this is on Pacific Daylight Time, and we want to teach them something about covenant calendar, we have to consider the time and the date so we can connect with them properly. And we can also meet with people in the time zones of Thailand, Malaysia, West and East Australia, and New Zealand. But the question is, What day and what date will it be for these 6 different time zones of the world if we want to meet with them for a calendar study? So for each country that chooses to join us on North America's Friday, March the 31st, guess what? It is already April the 1st. It's their Shabbat. We're still here on Friday, and they're already celebrating Shabbat. In Thailand, it's 8 o'clock in the morning, and in Malaysia, Philippines, and West Australia, it's 9 o'clock on Shabbat. And if you look at Queensland, there in the blue, it's about noon, and it's around 3 o'clock in the afternoon on Shabbat in New Zealand, depending on if they've changed to daylight time or not. So there's all different kinds of time, but they're all on Shabbat. And then, of course, if Dubai wants to decides that they want to join us, it's 6 o'clock in the morning, Shabbat their time, on April 1st. So it doesn't matter where you are in the world. Somebody is always ahead of you or behind you because of the time zones that man has set up. What do you think about this? Why are all of us not celebrating Shabbat at the exact same time? We've had this question asked of us. Aren't we all celebrating Shabbat at exactly the same time? No, we're not. While the Friday sun is beginning to set in North America, some in the world are already celebrating their Shabbat day season in the South Pacific. And most of us understand that due to that man-made international dateline and the Roman midnight day start, that Shabbat is celebrated by many around the world before the Shabbat cycle reaches those in North America. That international dateline has been placed by man in a location that would be the least disruptive for the economic system of the world. And if you cross that international dateline, you're going to have a change of days and a change of dates. That's the way it is. So just a sample day-night world map. It's just a sample one where we have our midnight right here in the middle of the night season. And we were just saying we're going to meet with those people over there on our March 31st. We've got light over here, but over there they also have light, but it's their Shabbat on April 1st. So we're getting asked this question. Why are there 2 different covenant calendars each year? We've been putting out 2 sets of calendars, one for the East, one for the West. How come there's 2? How come we're not all on the same calendar? The dates of covenant calendar are not first determined by man's midnight, and the dates are not determined by man's international dateline. That March straight line shadow at your location is the only determining factor for your appointed times, not for the appointed times on the other side of the world in Australia or Philippines or Europe. It's for your appointed times. That's why that shadow is so important where you're marking. It has a lot of authority. So this is what happened in March of 2023. We had a few people citing the shadow, and just a few, but you can see the blocks coming in. Some were yellow and some were blue. You can see very easily how it divided up. We didn't have a lot of people that were participating in 2023, but we had enough to see what was happening. And you can see for yourself right there where that silver bar is, there was a division because the people on the west side of the bar had a different marking, a different day of marking the straight line shadow than those on the right side of the bar. This is what happened. The gold markers, they found their straight line shadow on March the 19th. But the other markers, they marked their shadow on March the 20th. But that was splitting North America. That was a very interesting experience. We never expected to see that. With only a minimum amount of data, it was very easy to see where the authority of the shadow split the world into 2 different dates and 2 different counts. We never expected to see that. In 2023, the first shadow recorded on March the 19th was around Arkansas. That was the first shadow data that came in. And we also had data from Montana, from Alberta, and from California. We received data from Oklahoma about 6 weeks later that said exactly the same thing, and we saw the pictures, and Oklahoma just got it in a little bit late. But anyway, Oklahoma as well had straight line data on March the 19th. March 2023, remember that. So that gave us an April 2nd Passover, okay? But all of the data that was collected east of this red bar recorded shadows on March the 20th, all the way to Africa and Australia. And what did that do with their Passover? It placed it on April the 3rd instead of April the 2nd. That was in 2023. There was this big split. Yahuwah's International Dateline is what we're calling it. So we were curious about what Yahuwah was trying to show us. So we decided that we would take a closer look around Yahuwah's International Dateline because we knew for sure that Arkansas had a very good marking right there. And we were thinking, what was happening in between this space, between here and Michigan? Well, let's take a little bit of a closer look. In 2023, followers of Covenant Calendar were scattered all over the world, although not everyone understood the extreme importance of tracking the equinox shadow at that time. We just really didn't know how important it was. We knew it was important, but just how much, we didn't really know as a group. There was a north-south longitude strip around this Mississippi basin where Covenant Calendar members had no firm shadow data. We had Covenant Calendar members in this area, but none of them were marking. Arkansas marked first, and we had 2 marking up in Michigan, and then we had markings in West Virginia. And they were different than what we had from Arkansas. So like I said before, on the left side of this blue bar, they had the March 19th straight line shadow. Remember, it was Arkansas, Oklahoma, Montana, Alberta, and California. And everybody on the other side of the line, from New Zealand all the way over to Michigan, they had the straight line shadow on March the 20th with very good data. So what did we have to consider next? We went, wow, what happened? It was quite a surprise. Well, we decided that this has to be Yahuwah's international dateline, and he split the world dates around this placement in March of 2023. Very interesting. So there was only one thing that we could do after we figured that out, and it was this. We had to build 2 calendars because there's different dates. 2 calendars, one's for the East and one for the West. And it works like this. Had to place Yahuwah's International Dateline on the map. And these time zones right here, -6 to -11, they had a calendar. We called it the West Side Calendar. And it was stemmed from the March 19th straight line shadow. We marked the calendar that it was going to be useful for time zones -6 to -11. The time zones are down here. Everybody has to know what time zone they're in. Okay, that's important too, because that way you can tell which calendar you're supposed to download. And then the other side included time zones -5 to +12, or you could say from +12 to -5. And that was marked on their calendar. They had a calendar that had March 20th straight line shadow, and of course it would have had a different set of Passover dates as well. This 2023 divine split notified us that two sets of covenant calendars were necessary according to their appropriate location of world time zones. But guess what, everybody? Counterfeit calendars have the same challenge. You just never hear about it. If they're following a lunar calendar, you can have up to 3 different calendar dates with following a sliver moon, 3 different calendars for the world. And actually, the Dead Sea Scroll calendars, they have the same problem. It's just that nobody ever thinks about it. But we're the ones that got the question. But it isn't a counterfeit calendar problem because that's just the way it works because of man's time zones and man's international dateline and that midnight marker. So what did we have to do? Build another 2 calendars, and that's exactly what we did. We put them in the newsletters. We made it very, very clear what time zones each calendar was from, where the straight line shadow was, and where the first day of the year was on both of them, so that everybody would know that this was according to citing the Teshuva shadow. That's what determined the feast dates. Because there are 2 choices for covenant calendar, that means that everyone has to choose the right calendar for their time zone. But we had questions. People didn't really know what was going on because they hadn't been following what was actually happening. So spring of 2023 was the beginning of what was to happen in the spring of 2024. But first of all, let's just do a little bit of a review. Got the time zones up here at the top, and there's some times at the bottom just to show how it works. But Earth's solar year has 365 days plus 5 hours, 48 minutes, and 46 seconds, and they round that off to 365.2422 days. Well, I'm going to round off that extra to just 5 hours and about 45 minutes just for illustration. But our solar year doesn't have exactly 365 days, and it doesn't have exactly 366. It's this 5 hours and extra minutes and seconds that is an interesting thing to work with. So on March 19th, 2023, like I just showed you, the sun completed its 360-degree circuit of 365 plus 2422 days right here. This is where the split was in March of 19th, 2023. Where in the world do you think that the sun is going to complete its circuit of that same amount of time, 365.2422 days, in March of 2024? Because this is where it was in 2023. Well, we went back to work because we're going to have a shadow marking project in 2024. And it's not 100% to scale, but it'll give you a little bit of an idea. But this was interesting because in 2024, we had a lot of people marking the shadow. We advertised it. We had a worldwide project going, and we had a lot of markers participate, and there was a lot of excitement. March 19th, 2023, that was the day marker right there with the blue with Yahuwah's international dateline. And now we have to still travel this 5 hours and 48 minutes of time zones. That was where the sun completed its circuit last year, so it has to come to this place, and it still has to do 5 hours and 48 minutes to complete its circuit for 2024. But you can't mark 5 hours and 48 minutes on the Roman calendar. That's why they kind of added up. In 4 years, they'll add 1 extra day. Well, in March 19th, same day, but a year later, we have a day marker that is approximately in this area for Yah's international dateline. It looks like it has moved approximately 5 3/4 time zones. You look up here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and about a half or 3/4. Sun moved, had to move those extra hours. Were we sure about this? When we saw this happen, we were thinking, what? What's going on? We were at another learning curve. For shadow marking in 2024, like I said, there was excellent group participation around the world. We had a lot of people that were marking the shadow, and they were excited to report their data. So the question was, can a date for Passover be determined when we have all of this information? Well, this is what happened in the United States. First of all, we could determine a date. It was going to be April the 2nd. We had a lot of participation in the United States. All of these wonderful gold markers. There was one piece of data that was out by one day out of everybody else. There was one that said that they had a March 20th straight line shadow, but 22 people out of North America, 22 pieces of data had excellent data with those pictures and all their pin marks and their straight lines and they pulled their threads and whatnot. We could see that March 19th was the straight line shadow day for North America. We didn't have anybody in South America or Mexico. So putting this onto a world map, we've got 22 here. We had 7 pieces of data. There was somebody from Hawaii that reported a little bit as well, but you can see between the gold marks that had March the 19th, 2024, and over here we had shadow tracking on March the 20th, the pink, all over the place. We had a lot of people marking. I'm only marked one place, but a lot of people were marking. This blue was a little bit of a question. As we were looking at it, we weren't really sure, but now I understand why we weren't really sure what was happening. But basically, you can all see what happened. You can just see it. Yahuwah's international dateline was somewhere in this area. There's the split. All the gold is on this side. The pink is over here. So we were able to say that for the west side, which is time zones approximately -3 to -10, they have a Passover of April the 2nd. And on the other side, on the east side, they have a Passover of April the 3rd. This is for the time zones 0 to +12. Up here is 0, all the way to the international dateline is +12. So they had a calendar with Passover on April the 3rd. Is that a problem? No, it's not. We can answer that question a little bit later. The dates for Passover were the same as the 2023 dates, but it was just the location that changed because Yah's international dateline changed from North America, moved those 5 hours and 45 minutes. So what did we have to do? We had to put out a new 2024 covenant calendar. And we labeled it GMT West and GMT East so that everybody could choose the calendar according to their time zones. We had the time zones on there, but I just have a feeling because of all the questions that we received, they didn't understand what these time zones meant. We needed to have those 2 sets of covenant calendar options for members around the world, and it all depended on their location within those 24 time zones. We're going to come back to this slide a couple more times in this little PowerPoint. This is just a review up here. We've already done this, that our solar year is 365 days, and then we also have these extra hours, 5 hours, 48 minutes, and 46 seconds. So here we go with our review. March 2023, we have our sun's finishing its circuit. Yah's international dateline is right there. And what happened in 2024? The sun completes its circuit of its 365.2422 days right around in this area. And like I said, that's about 5 3/4 time zones to the east. Does that give a question? Yes, it does. For March 2025, this was our question last year because we knew about this 5 hours and 48 minutes. So our question was, in March of 2025, will the sun complete its circuit around in this area, around in the area of India? Because we were looking and seeing these patterns. And that's okay, because patterns repeat, and you can trust patterns. So we were wondering if this was going to be the pattern for March 2025. But we have to remember that 2024 was a leap year. We never thought about that last year. Now we're going to ask a question that we quiver to ask. What does NASA say about the equinox dates around the world for 2025? We do not trust NASA to give us an accurate reading of what every country should do to build their feast calendar, but it doesn't hurt to go and look what NASA has to say, and that's what we're going to do right now. We're back to this equinox world map for March the 20th, 2025. You've seen it before. March 20th on the right side of the midnight marker, and on the other side, we've got the Hawaiian Islands there. It's March the 19th. Right there, that midnight marker, you can see it's very close to the Hawaiian Islands, and there's a little bit of other population in this big ocean. We're going to look at that a little bit, but that's where this marker is, very close to Hawaii. So Hawaii is still on March 19th because that midnight marker hasn't come to change the date or the day. Now, I'd like you to note that even though NASA said that the equinox was March the 20th in 2023 and 2024, this is their little table. March 2023 had March 20th on both dates, 23 and 24. According to the Teshuva shadow, though, March 19th was in parts of the world marking the last day of the old year. It wasn't March the 20th. So that's when we realized we cannot trust NASA dates, and we can't not use NASA dates to accurately mark when the first day of the new year is. It depends on where you live. This is the NASA date line right here for Greenwich. So next, let's check the NASA 2025 equinox dates for several time zones around the world and see what's happening. So that's what I did. I went and started checking. I found out that midnight was right about this area, right close to Hawaii. I want you to take note what is happening here with Alaska, okay? It's basically, if I extended this midnight marker, Alaska would be on the other side with Hawaii. NASA says all of these time zones up here, I'm going to enlarge this so that you could see it close up. You can have a really good view. NASA says all of these time zones from -9, and oh, by the way, I need to mention, I do not know why they have these backwards on this world map. I had to change these ones on the top, but I did not have time to change everything. This +9 should say -9. Okay, I don't know why the map was wrong. But let's go with this up here because this is correct. So NASA says all the way from -9 all the way over to New Zealand, March 20th, equinox for 2025. And that includes Alaska. That's what you'll find if you go looking. So let's enlarge this so that we can understand, and we're enlarging the east side first from New Zealand area, from the international date line, all the way up to Greenwich, okay, up to -1 to the other side. Let's look. I went checking each of these time zones for the equinox time according to NASA. In +10, it was 7:01 in the evening, March the 20th. In +9 time zone, it was 6:01. March the 20th. I checked with Perth, Australia. It was 5:01. It's March the 20th. These time zones I didn't check because I don't have any CC members there. But Dubai, I checked Dubai, and it was 1:01 in the afternoon for Dubai, and it's March the 20th. Sorry, I didn't have room to write all the March 20th in there. But this one here, +3, basically around Greece area, 12:01 p.m., March the 20th. +2 time zone, 11:01, March the 20th, okay? +1 time zone, 10:01, March the 20th. And UTC at Greenwich area, 9:01 in the morning, March the 20th. One time zone to the west, it's 8:01, March the 20th. I'm thinking, oh, everything is March the 20th. Well, let's look at the other side. Let's look at the time zones east to west from 0, we already did that last time, and -1, all the way up to +11. March 20th on all of them for equinox? Yes, they were. All of these say March 20th. When we get to kind of the North American area, it's now 6:01 p.m. for Atlantic Daylight Time, 6:01 p.m. March the 20th. Eastern Daylight Time is 5:01 p.m. March the 20th. Central Daylight Time is 4:01 p.m. March the 20th. Mountain Daylight Time, this is daylight time, 3:01 March the 20th. And Pacific Daylight Time, 2:01 in the morning, March the 20th. Everything's March the 20th. I've never seen that happen before. Now remember, Alaska is right here. Let's uncover Alaska and see what it says. It says 1:01 a.m., March the 20th. I hope you're all asking a question right now. How is Alaska March the 20th when it's on the other side of the midnight marker? Midnight marker would be here. Man does what he wants with his time zones and with his times. So this is a problem, okay? Now I know that you can't see the area down below here, but let's uncover the next boxes. For -10, are we going to have March the 20th? Let's take a peek and see. Equinox is 11:01 p.m. March the 19th. That would be where Hawaii is. The next one is 10:01 p.m. March the 19th. And let's uncover ±12. 9:01 p.m., but it can be either March the 19th or March the 20th. They both have 9:01 p.m. And the last one, it is 8:01 p.m., but that one is March the 20th. So we have some in here that are March the 19th. This was a surprise to me, everyone, to see that March the 20th was dominating most of the world. This is not quite to scale, but it's very, very close. So what is going on? We're going to section out this part of the Pacific Ocean. NASA says this very small section has the 2025 equinox on March the 19th, and everything else was March the 20th. Oh, but it doesn't include Alaska. Why or why not? And it doesn't include Pitcairn Island down here. Pitcairn is really close. It's on the other side of the midnight marker. Okay, their equinox was 1:01 in the morning on March the 20th. Do you see a problem here? How come Alaska didn't get included? Let's enlarge this demonstration area and take a closer peek at what's going on there. So I've enlarged it over here, but I'm going to put another map over here, and we're going to look at all of these symbols. This is the international date line with this heavy pink line. This is where man has put it. It's quite an interesting arrangement. This is the midnight marker right here. You can see where the Hawaiian Islands are. And the Hawaiian Islands go all the way out to this international date line to Curry Island. Alaska's just north of here. You can see that there's quite a section here that is not included with these time zones. It's included with time zones over here. Pitcairn is down in here, Tahiti in here. Let's look and see what's going on. It was hard to put this chart together so it would make the most sense. So I thought I'll just work from Pitcairn. Let's work from Pitcairn. Here's Pitcairn. Equinox is March the 20th. They were time zone -8, and I already gave you this information. It's 1:01 in the morning, March the 20th. Let's look next. The next marker is going to be Tahiti. It's on the other side of the midnight line. So they're at March the 19th. They haven't arrived to March the 20th yet. Let's put in Hawaii. Hawaii is also on March the 19th, equinox at 11:01 p.m., both for Hawaii and Tahiti. But we're going to come into this area right now, Kiribati. It actually covers time zones 12 plus 13 and a 14. 3 time zones. I just took the plus 13. They're on March the 20th, even though they're in alignment with Hawaii and with Tahiti. Let's look at Midway Island, way up there, very, very close to the international date line. They're on March the 19th as well. And Samoa, over here, right here, they've got a March 20th equinox, according to NASA. And then, of course, we all know where New Zealand is. They're on March the 20th. These little islands, Chatham, down here, very close to the international date line, they are also on March the 20th. 10:46 p.m., March the 20th. And Vanuatu, or however you say that, over here, they are also on March the 20th. Now you might be asking, why is such a small section of the world getting so much attention in this study today? And that is a good question. So let's review our chart. Remember, in March of 2023, Yaw's international date line fell right about in this area of North America. In 2024, the sun completed its circuit around this area, and we saw that Yaw's international date line split the calendar into east and west, right around this area, just west of Ireland. According to these two former patterns, it seemed that Yaw's international date line should finish right here in about the area of India, because we added in the 5 hours and the 48 minutes, just like we did before. But if it doesn't, will the sun complete its circuit close to man's international date line in March 2025? This is the question. In 2025, are we going to have to add in an extra 5 hours and 48 minutes? 2 of them? 2 sets of them because it was a leap year? Would this have something to do, really, with that leap year day? That's what we're wondering. Next question. Who is going to lead the world in marking the shadow, and on what date? This March 2025. And are we going to find that Yahuwah's international date line is going to be snugging up really close to man's international date line in 2025? That it's not going to stay at India? It's going to travel those extra 5 3/4 time zones? Only this very small part of the world has NASA equinox on March the 19th. Everyone else is on March the 20th. And the question is, for this little small tiny sliver of the world, do we have any shadow markers here? I don't know of any. If you know of somebody in this area that's marking the shadow, we would be very interested to have their data. But this part of the world, right here. This is where the spotlight is. It seems like they get the spotlight every year. On this side of the international date line of man, and I think Yahuwah too, I think they could be the ones that see the shadow first. Right in this area, New Zealand, Chatham Islands, all in here. Australia, Philippines, Malaysia, Indonesia, all of these areas. Very, very, not to put any stress on anybody, but we think that it's very important to see what's happening there. Once again, for March 2025, our South Pacific shadow markers are really important. Really important. And we've got some really good shadow markers in that area of the world. Some really good practiced up shadow markers. So what's the point of all this exercise? Are the calendar dates over here? Are they nowhere? Are they far away? Are they somewhere? You have no idea. You're not sure. You just plain don't know, and you're uncertain and you're distant. Like, what is the point of the exercise? And the other question is, of everything that we've shown you today, does everybody have to know this stuff? The answer is no. But everybody should understand why there could be more than one calendar with different calendar dates. Let's come back to our question, because it was an important question. We asked it at the beginning. Remember all these questions we asked about all these things we could be looking at this world map? Is there validity here? You know what? It's possible that the above points could unlock a calendar mystery for leaders to know the true Teshuvah date in advance for countries around the world, but I say not yet. It could be discovered in the future, but right yet, don't know what the secret is. So why are we here? Let's go back to John 4, where Yahushua saith unto her, the woman in Samaria, Woman, believe me, the hour cometh when you shall neither in this mountain, in Samaria, nor yet at Jerusalem worship the Father. Because she asked him, where should we worship? He said, neither in this mountain and not at Jerusalem. But the hour cometh, and it now is, when the true worshipers shall worship Yahuwah Elohim in spirit and in truth. For Yahuwah seeketh such to worship him. Yahuwah is a spirit, and they that worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth. Worship where? Worship at your location. What is your shadow telling you? Covenant calendar leaders, we're all here to teach you how to mark the shadow so that you don't have to depend on others, or that you can work together in a buddy system to see what somebody's doing in your own time zone. And what's the next part of this exercise? Is it for you? Yes, it is. The next part is to track your shadow, and then the next thing you want to do is mark your calendar dates. Get out your calendar and start marking your Leviticus 23 dates. And then you're going to honor Yahuwah's festivals and feasts according to your shadow. If you have any questions, you can write us at questions@studythecalendar.com. We'd like to thank you for being with us today, and that's the end. Shalom.